Florida Governor Ron DeSantis just made his state even worse for transgender people. On Wednesday, the governor signed several bills into law that would essentially criminalize being transgender. Just that's it. Criminalize being trans. Now, the first, SB 254, takes several steps to prevent Florida's minors from receiving any gender-affirming care, not just in Florida, but anywhere across the country. Now, the law, of course, will ban gender-affirming care, or already does ban gender-affirming care in the state of Florida, but will give emergency jurisdiction to courts to then stop a child from leaving the state to receive gender-affirming care elsewhere. So, no. Not, okay, you can't get it here, and you can't get it anywhere else. We're going to restrict your interstate travel and commerce. Now, it's, again, it's really bad. Trying to get a child gender-affirming medical care is the only specific action other than abandonment that the law states prompts such an emergency jurisdiction. So basically, if you're trying to be a good parent and helping your child transition because they are transgender, that is the equivalent in Florida law to abandoning your child. Wow. Now, it would also be a third-degree felony to provide gender-affirming medical care within the state to a minor, which carries a potential 5-year prison sentence. SB 254 also places limits on adults. So it's not just children that are affected, but adults are not able to get gender-affirming medical care as well. First, it would bar state or local governments from funding gender-affirming medical care through their health plans or government-funded care for people of all ages. It would also force adults receiving such care to sign informed consent forms adopted by the Florida's Board of Medicine and Board of Osteopathic Medicine. So now the problem with those boards is that they're filled with DeSantis appointees. Appointees that have implemented DeSantis' anti-trans laws previously. Now, the bill also bars anyone other than doctors from prescribing or performing gender-affirming care. Now, the new law also makes it a first-degree misdemeanor to violate the new restrictions on care for adults. Again, adults, which comes with a potential prison sentence of up to a year for someone other than a doctor prescribing hormones to a trans adult. Again, you would get 1 year in prison. So already, that is a horrifying bill. But there's more. Oh, yes. Now, the new law also makes it a first-degree misdemeanor to violate... HB 1521. That's the next one. That one bans trans people from using a restroom that fits with their gender identity in most government buildings. It also defines sex in a biological birth-based definition. The law then also limits restroom use in a government-owned building based on that definition of sex. It also applies to prisons, detention facilities, schools, and any other public building. That also includes to government-owned airports, convention centers, or stadiums. And forces schools and prisons to create new disciplinary procedures for employees, students, and our inmates that violate the law. Again, for trans people, just using the restroom that fits your identity is enough. Wow. For others and non-employees of any of those public buildings, the law creates a new criminal violation. The law generally makes it a first-degree misdemeanor whenever a trans person doesn't leave a restroom when asked to leave by an employee of the government agency that occupies that building. A first-degree misdemeanor can mean up to a year in prison in Florida. So now here's the thing that's going to be, that's probably very likely going to happen now in Florida. We've already seen issues of, or instances of transvestigators, right? If you're unfamiliar with that term, it is for someone who uses essentially what it is, a version of phrenology. those who are not familiar with phrenology, is basically a very racist practice of measuring like skull shapes to measure like intelligence, things like that. Well, the modern day phrenology is being related to trans people. Oh, your hips are a little bit too narrow. Ooh, does that kind of look like an Adam's apple? You look like a little too tall to be a biological woman. We don't think you are. Show us the genitals. That's what it's going to devolve to. Already, cisgendered women who were born, okay, you can say, oh, they were born biologically female or assigned female at birth. Okay? You're going to have women who are assigned female at birth being harassed because they think that they're a transgender person. Not to mention all the actual transgender people who are also being targeted by this. So you have trans people that are treated like, not people. They're not being treated like, as human beings with rights. And then, of course, with all of these ridiculous laws, you also have unintended consequences of hitting, of these laws affecting cisgender women. I mean, this is terrible all around for everyone involved. And this is not even the worst part of this. No, the worst part would allow the state of Florida to kidnap transgender children. I'm not kidding. The state would be able to take custody of a child if they have been, quote, subjected to or are threatened with being subjected to gender-affirming care, which in their definition includes puberty blockers and hormone replacement therapy. Wait, threatened? Threatened with gender-affirming... You better clean your room or you're going to have gender-affirming care. What? That doesn't make any sense at all. Nobody's being threatened with that gender-affirming care. Wow. Florida. And not only that, finally, Florida courts could also modify custody agreements from a different state if the minor is likely to receive gender-affirming care in that second state. So much for parental rights. Now, the text also refers to gender-affirming care as sex reassignment prescriptions or procedures and qualifies this care as a form of physical harm. So that's what's going on in Florida. Now, a lot of you have already messaged me and asked me, how is this even legal? Well, it's very likely that a lot of these are going to be challenged in court, but that is going to take time to go through the court system. And with the judiciary, a lot of it being, Trump appointees, we don't know how that is going to turn out. So here we have the state of Florida essentially criminalizing the existence of transgender people, just like we said was going to happen. Oh no, we're just trying to protect the children. We're trying to protect the children. This doesn't look like you're trying to protect children when you're going after transgender adults as well. But it was never about protecting children. It was always about bigotry.